Hello everyone, welcome to ArbCast. Much like an emergency arbitration, I'm here today instead of Hadith. My name is Ananya and I'm currently a student at National Law University, Delhi. Today's episode is an insight into training contracts and vacation schemes, something at which there's a lack of information outside NLUs. And for this, I have with me our honored guest, Ananya Agrawal. Ananya needs no introduction, but let me just get done with the formalities. Ananya currently works at Clifford Chance London and is a graduate from NUJS. She is also the founder and editor-in-chief of Curia International. She has also gained experience with other leading law firms such as Allen Overy Singapore, AZB and Khaitan. We're truly honored to have you here, Ananya. So good to see you. Just to get started with the fundamentals, let's start with the first question. What even is a vacation scheme and how do you actually go about it?
Thanks, Ashka. Thanks for having me on here. To jump right into it, a vacation scheme is what we could call internships back in the UK. A vacation scheme are basically work experiences you do with law firms, be it any law firms, like any kind of sort of city law firms in the UK. For a few weeks, some range from like a few days to a few weeks, which give you an experience of the firm, but also are an opportunity for you to convert into something we call a training contract, which is basically a job offer with that particular law firm that you do a vacation scheme with.
Is there any difference between a vacation scheme that is in London or a vacation scheme, or either that is in Singapore because you've already worked at Singapore? And how are they different from Indian internship that law students typically tend to do?
Well, vacation schemes are a part of international law firms, just generally. So international law firms host vacation schemes at various different sort of offices that they have, be it in Singapore, be it in London, be it in Sydney, and so on and so forth, right? So I have done a vacation scheme with Allen Overy Singapore, and the structure of the scheme is very much the same. The way to apply to a vacation scheme in London versus Singapore is very much the same. But similar to what we were discussing sort of before starting this podcast, the way to apply for a vacation scheme differs magnificently as compared to kind of Indian internships. Vacation schemes have multiple rounds of sort of assessments that are taken. They have multiple rounds of various different applications that you need to fill out. There are tests. There are sort of something we call
The
Watson
Watson Glaser,
interviews, yeah, and situation
the
judgment tests,
aptitude test, and yeah.
right, which are basically your sort of general aptitude plus like a personality analysis of yours. So I would say that they definitely differ from the way an Indian internship works, not just in their application process, but also in like sort of what we actually do in an internship versus a vacation scheme. However, within offices, so say if someone's applying to London or Singapore, if for an international firm, I would say they're very similar to each other. You would obviously focus a lot more on your kind of on the branch or on the office which you're applying to, but then the law firm obviously remains the same. So the process is quite similar.
Thank you so much for the insight, actually. I was wondering what led you to apply and why would someone else also would want to apply? I mean, everyone has a story. I'm really interested in getting to know yours because I read quite a lot. You've done a lot of things. So what was that thing? Because I know some people in my law school, the moment they enter law school, they know that this is the career path that they want. And there's some people who are still exploring. So what kind of person were you?
For me, I was a mix of both. I personally, my motivations to apply for a training contract very much stemmed from sort of my life story. A lot of it stemmed from just experiences that I've had since I was a child. So I have lived and sort of grown up in various different countries, Germany, France, and then the UK, before I moved to India for sort of my higher studies and undergrad. So when I came in, I was always fascinated with the idea. Like when I came into law school, I was always fascinated by the idea of working and in sort of interacting with people from various different cultures, from different jurisdictions, and that working on kind of global work really fascinated me, which is also like a reason behind, or rather a motivation behind, a lot of work that I did within law school. So all of these sort of international competitions, founding Curia International, wanting to have it on a global platform as opposed to just a very strong India focus, all stemmed from this desire of wanting to kind of interact with people from various different nationalities and in learning their ways, because that's what I had seen. It came second nature to me. So walking into law school and seeing all of these different opportunities and possibilities, a training contract or working for an international law firm really did stand out for me, because in a way it did encapsulate all of these things that I had wanted since, well, since I was very young, right? So that definitely was, I think, a primary motivation for me. Another very strong motivation I had was after trying out various sort of different things in law school, doing various different internships in law school, I realized my love for commercial law. I realized that I enjoy that fast paced, high pressure life where I am working and racing against deadlines, where I am constantly having to think on my feet, where I'm working with sort of large teams, coordinating with sort of various offices. And I can say for a fact that that is what commercial law, well, at least in an international law firm, is like, for sure. So that was my second sort of biggest motivation. And that didn't, I didn't sort of fall down on that until much later in my law school. So anyone coming into law school, I think my only advice would be to come in with an open mind. You never know what you would enjoy. You never know where your niche would fall. Try out everything, see what you enjoy, see what you have a passion for. And slowly, I think your law school journey will shape in some form or way, which kind of pushes you to your main motivation and your main sort of passion for what you want to do after law school.
I mean, that was quite insightful. I think everyone sort of has their career dilemma when they first enter, and the more you do things, the more you realize. I remember when I was in my second year, I was obsessed with criminal law. I used to do a lot of criminal law related things. I did the ICC moot, which was then again international criminal law.
Yeah.
And in third year, I just switched up gears, ended up doing Wiz. So I think it's, as you said, having an open mind is really, really important. Coming to that, I wanted to ask, oftentimes I see students from different NLUs applying, but what if someone comes from non-NLU or not so that known institutions? Does that affect their chances of getting, and how does it affect, the process? Is there anything?
I think applying for a training contract without having done a foreign law degree generally is a very difficult process. There are people who get training contracts every year. And I can confirm that there are people from NLUs and non-NLUs who are very thriving in London at the moment, having done TCs, have progressed through various different positions in the law firm. But generally, I feel like this barrier of being from a NLU and non-NLU can be taken away by believing in yourself, by just going for the process, by really trusting your own journey, trusting the kind of skills and qualities that you bring to the table, and taking away that sort of hesitation that one has, right? And coming from an NLU myself, I agree that there may be a lot of barriers that I'm blind to because I may not have had to cross them through my law school journey. But having done things which no NLU student had also done before, like for instance, to get a direct training contract at Clifford Chance, I can tell you that the only thing that I did personally in my journey was believe in myself and have the confidence to come to the table and say that, look, I do have these skills and qualities, and I do like your law firm genuinely, and I do enjoy the kind of work that you do, and I think that our collaboration together is going to be fantastic for both of us. So that's my only advice on that front. I don't think that there is a specific challenge that I can think of.
I mean, yeah, I think believing yourself can take you to places. I wanted to ask about the relevance of LLMs, and obviously there's the challenging SQEs that we keep on seeing articles about, that how hard it is, and the passing rates of it. Would you tell me about that? I mean, how was your experience doing the SQE?
um, it is challenging. It is very challenging. However, I think it's very rewarding as well. The SQE does sort of set you up and prepare you for the pressures that law gives you and throws at you. I haven't, well, I feel like there are obviously the content of what you study in an SQE may differ from what your actual day-to-day job is, right? However, the bar exam in itself, the qualification exam in itself is a challenging one. Therefore, and it prepares you for a challenging career ahead in law and in sort of English and Wales qualified law. So the SQE journey is one to think about. It is, I would say, as competitive or even more than CLAT, which we give initially to get into NLUs at the start of our sort of legal careers.
Law school.
In law school, yeah. So my only advice for SQE is that there is definitely a big effort that needs to be made in order to study for it. I don't think it's an exam that can be taken with no less or no effort. Like, having spoken to multiple people from my firm, from other firms, Indian law students who have sat the SQE, I think all of us share that perspective that the SQE does take in effort. But also, having said that, it is an exam at the end of the day, right? If you prepare for it and you prepare well, you will get through it. It's not as challenging as, I would say, the bigger challenge is to get a training contract or to get a vacation scheme. And I'm sure the SQE is definitely just sort of a tick mark that you have to complete before you can actually start your TC. Yeah, that would be my advice for the
Yeah.
SQE.
For the second part of my question, do you think LLMs are relevant for this? Would you recommend going for an LLM abroad if you really want to get training contract?
Mm-hmm. Well, for me personally, because I didn't do an LLM, I ended up getting my TC in my penultimate year of law school in India. I honestly can't speak for it because all I can tell you or share with you is my experience of my friends having done masters in the UK. And they've had sort of mixed experiences with getting a training contract. Some have had success in getting a TC, some have struggled a little bit more, some have realized that maybe London is not for them and have decided to kind of do bigger and better things in India or in other jurisdictions. So I don't think there's a plain sort of answer for that at all with respect to LLMs.
Sure. Just getting more into the details. What was your day-to-day experience at the vacation scheme like? How was it like? How did you explore London also? Would really love to know.
Well, for me, I never did a vacation scheme with Clifford Chance. I got a direct training contract here. So in fact, when I first joined the firm, I was already a part of the firm. As in, when I first came and like actually saw the firm firsthand, I was already a part of the firm, right? So I never did a vacation scheme with CC London. I did do a vacation scheme with ANO Singapore, and the vacation scheme experience was absolutely fantastic. I had two rotations with two separate seats in the law firm. I sat with international disputes and I sat with cap marks for about a week and a half each. So it's a fairly short experience that you have. However, you do get a very good idea of what the firm is like, what the team is like. There are various sort of events, there are various kind of smaller assessments of sorts that are organized throughout the vacation scheme. So you would have presentations, you would have kind of case study reviewing, you would have a lot of kind of working in groups with your other cohort mates in the vacation scheme. You do get given work as well. So you're working with your supervisor, you're working with people in the team on various different projects and things that are going on, so various different kind of deals and transactions. I was very fortunate to actually witness a live arbitration hearing that was ongoing at the time at Singapore during my vacation scheme. So I actually did witness some absolutely wonderful and very talented, well, counsels, senior counsels, partners argue these arbitration hearings. So that was a great experience. With Clifford Chance, I definitely did a lot of work experience before I started my training contract with them. Because they offer something called lift internships, which are basically sort of learning internships for future trainees. So once you get the training contract, you are given opportunities to work within the firm in various different departments. And I did an absolutely fantastic internship of sorts, well, like work experience of sorts. And this is sort of in the middle of your qualification degrees that you do. So before you start your DC, while you're sort of doing your SQE, that sort of a thing. With the business development team within our litigation dispute resolution group. And that was a fab experience because you're not really working on kind of legal work. You're doing a lot of non-legal functions that the law firm has, which are to support the fee makers, but are absolutely crucial to the work that they do, because business development is literally how the firm gets clients. And to kind of be a part of that team and learn firsthand was a brilliant experience.
I mean, that sounds fantastic even hearing it. I think I want to ask, how did you actually adapt to the workplace? Because I think the culture would have been different. You have already lived abroad quite a while, but like, was there something specific, or how different was the work culture comparing, if you could, from an Indian law firm?
Well, I think I would say there isn't like a vast amount of difference. I think Indian law firms are also fairly, uh, fairly close to kind of the work culture that you have in the UK as well. I think it differs from kind of firm to firm and your team to team. I don't think I really thought about kind of adapting. I think it was just about kind of being myself and bringing my personality to the table, and everyone was just very welcoming, and people are just very supportive and kind of helping you out, talking to you, explaining to you how things work. So I've had great experiences in all of my internships in India. I absolutely loved my internships in India, and I loved the teams that I worked with, and I had fantastic work experience with them. Yes, there are late nights. Yes, that also exists very much in the UK market. Please do not be fooled by the fact that you will not have late nights here. But I'd say that, again, if you have a passion for what you do, and if you enjoy genuinely talking to people and networking with people, and all of the things that it takes to become a commercial lawyer, then you're going to have a great time in the UK and in India. I would say, like, it's very much the same. It depends on how you take it, right?
I want to ask, is there any specific challenge that Indian students or Asian students will specifically face when it comes to applying for vacation schemes? Because, there's a right to work in UK, and some firms sponsor your visa, other firms do not. So can you give your insight on how did you go about the logistics of it?
Well, I have to be honest, Ashka, I really didn't think too deep into this when I was applying, but I know that some people do struggle with the visa, because vacation schemes being a very short sort of experience that you have in the UK, it sometimes becomes easier with people who have work rights already. If they're on, I don't know, a student visa, or we have something called the postgraduate visa, that sort of a thing. So it's easier for them to do a vacation scheme. I would say that if someone's applying directly from India, it might just be logistically easier to do a direct training contract or apply for direct training contracts, because there you're not required to be physically in the country, right? A lot of these law firms do offer virtual assessment centers, and it's much easier for students to attend those, as opposed to kind of get those work rights to actually come to the UK and have those vacation schemes. Having said that, again, I know students and I know people who have well, they have secured vacation schemes, but their firms haven't really sponsored their short-term visas. So they have found various different ways to get a short-term visa in the UK, with kind of various agencies who kind of sponsor you and that sort of a thing. So I personally don't have experience with it, so I can't really speak to it. But I know that it is possible to do it because I know people who've done it before. So that could, I don't know if that is helpful to someone who's applying. Um, it is true that bigger law firms in the UK have those kind of sponsorship licenses and things that uh, an international student requires. So I think my one tip would be that don't shy away from applying to big firms. They're probably the only ones who can actually hire you, because the other smaller firms may not have that kind of licensing permissions to actually bring you to the UK.
Okay, for your answers, I think we can start with the biggest question that anyone applying to a vacation scheme must answer, which is a test of their commercial awareness and knowledge of the firms. How did you tackle these two things? What was your approach?
Well, two-part, commercial awareness and, well, researching a little bit more into law firms. With respect to research within law firms, it's actually a very structured process. You start with the website, you start with kind of the grad rec page, very detailed, I think. These firms do spend a lot of energy and time curating that information for you. It's a very good place to start at. Please look at the website. The amount of people who reach out to me asking me questions on like deadlines and all sorts of things which are very available on the website. Please take a look at that first. And then happy to sort of guide you otherwise. And there are quite a few various different platforms that you can approach. So Legal Cheek is one of them. Legal Cheek has these really good kind of law firm insights and law firm kind of briefs that they do, which helps you kind of read a little bit more about law firms, not from their perspective, but from other people's perspective who work there and that sort of a thing. There are various kind of student chambers. I think there's a student chambers 500 brief, that sort of a thing that you can look at. Kind of more general searches about the law firm. Grad Rec usually does really good kind of YouTube videos and explanatory videos. Their social medias are very good, a very good place. So this is kind of like bits and bobs that you can do in order to get like more general information about the law firm. Another thing that is very, very popular and I think people should definitely try out and sign up for are kind of virtual events. If you're in London, and obviously physical events if you are able to fly down or are in the UK, where law firms actually have people on who are trainees, future trainees, associates, people from the graduate recruitment team, to come and speak to you. Like you literally have these kind of like legal fairs, like again, virtual legal fairs. This is also hosted by Legal Cheek, for people to come sign up to, absolutely free of charge. You sign up to them. Some of them, I think, have kind of application processes and things to get through to these kind of open days as well. But I think there are a lot of ones that you can sign up for where they will literally take you through their process. They will literally tell you what are they looking for. They will give you a lot of insights. And I think these are a great place to start, find out more about the firm, find out about the people at the firm, right? How are they kind of talking about the firm? What are they talking like? Because you can ask these future trainees and trainees all sorts of questions as to like what was your motivation and why did you join and all sorts of things. So very important to be prepared when you go to these events because they are fairly quick events. So you will you should go in having done your kind of background briefing and also having like a set of questions ready as to what is it that you want to know, right? And who are you planning to ask that to? So do your research, have that prep ready. One thing that I will say, just generally as like an overview of this training contract process, is that it is a lot of work. It is a lot of hard work. It is a lot of prep, research. You have to treat it as with the seriousness that it deserves. It's not just a random application you can fill out and then kind of send chaser emails or whatever. It is a lot of preparation just to get that vacation scheme. And then another like set of, and like, another sort of cycle of prep starts to convert that into a training contract, right? So it's a lot of work, but it's very rewarding. It's a great experience, and if you have the right motivation for it, and if you can find enough passion to work that hard for it, then I would say it is definitely worth it, from my personal experience. Obviously people have different experiences. So that is on kind of law firm research. Commercial awareness is a huge thing, which every law firm is looking for. Very good for you to build. There are multiple podcasts that I used to listen to, FT News. Um, get into the habit of reading kind of your Financial Times every day. Get into the habit of thinking about different various commercial stories that are happening across the world, and the deeper impact that that has on law firms, on clients, on the world. See how things interlink with each other. See how supply chain issues is caused because of immigration changes in international jurisdictions, and see the impact that that's having on kind of global clients, and which clients are being affected the most, and how does ESG kind of play into that, right? That's the kind of chain of thought that you need to have, and that's the kind of chain of thought you need to build. So commercial awareness comes from kind of reading, understanding these news stories. There are a bunch of various different newsletters which are just absolutely brilliant in breaking down these stories. There's one called Non-Billable. There's the FT News Briefing, which is a podcast. There's Finemize, a very good newsletter. TCLA does a very good newsletter. There is Non-Billable. They do a very good newsletter. And several others. I think once you do a kind of quick Google search and like speed through kind of your LinkedIn's and Instagrams, you will come across these pages and podcasts and newsletters, which are fab to keep up with commercial knowledge. And then your kind of legal knowledge of figuring out M&A, figuring out your kind of various different banking terms, what kind of deeper insights you require in order to conduct due diligence on a particular company, what are the commercial impacts, insights that you're going to have on that, all of that, your basic kind of contracts, your basic company law, all of these things will be tested at some point throughout the process. So make sure that you are keeping up to date with that kind of legal knowledge as well.
Thank you so much.
So that would be my advice on commercial awareness.
That marks an end to our questions. Thank you so much for joining us, Ananya. I think it was an absolute pleasure to have you, and your insights were really, really helpful. I think anyone which watches this would love to know all of the knowledge that you've shared. And thank you for the detail that you've given to us. I think that is something that often is missing from the articles that you can find on the internet, and your personal experience, obviously. I think that just brings a narrative that anyone looking to apply would be really inspired by. Thank you. This kind of my
Thanks so much. Thanks, Ashka.